Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for this digital first education series. My name is Stéphane Saldivia, and I'm the founder of French Cluster. And for those who don't know our organization, we're a group of French professionals based here in Los Angeles. So we have an extensive knowledge of the American market and want to offer a unique and original alternative to help French people succeed, for the French community to succeed in California. We have experts chosen from a different profession, and we have selected them based on their professional experience and also their skills. So we would like also to thank our partner, Bank of the West, for their support. So today basically is the second episode. Here we'll be talking about Facebook and Instagram platform. Basically for your business, it's crucial to have the right content strategies and understand the key aspects to be visible on social media. So I'm very happy to welcome our expert today, Hanna Sprague. Hopefully I pronounced it properly, based in Los Angeles. So quick bio on Hanna. Hanna Sprague is a VP of partnerships at Mile 44, a global sports content studio based in Los Angeles. She's responsible for building and sustaining Mile 44 clients roster, which currently includes global brands and athletes such as La Liga, Glorious, World Sport Awards, Kerry Walsh Jennings, Hope Solo, and much more. So she's been promoted from senior manager to director of creative strategy to VP of partnerships in less than 3 years with the agency. So prior to joining Mile 44, she launched her career in collegiate athletics as an athletic communication assistant at Michigan State University and spent 2 seasons in the Detroit Tigers front office. So she was named a member of the front office Sports Rising 25, an award that recognizes the brightest young stars of the sports business industry. So it's a great pleasure to have her with us. And we also have received a few questions that we'll ask her at the end of the webinar. So with no further ado, we'll start with Hanna. Welcome, Hanna.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you for everyone tuning in today. I know this year has been quite crazy, so to be able to take the time to learn a couple things, I just hope I'm able to do that for you. So thank you for being here. Like Stefan said, I work for Mile 44. We're a global sports content studio. So I lead more of the partnership side of things now, but have really come up on the content side of things. So we have about 20 minutes. There's no way we're going to get through learning everything there is to learn. So I just want to use this time to really get your mind thinking in the right directions of what these great strategies can do for your business. And then tactical tools at the end of specific sites to go to, specific apps to download, very tactical aspects that you can take away from this to do with it what you will when it comes to content and your strategy for your business. I'll also have a slide with my contact info at the end of this. This is an interesting thing because everyone is coming from such different business backgrounds. So not one strategy. If you work in insurance, you're probably not going to want to hear what I have to say about sports and vice versa. So I'm always happy to dive in more specifically to your business with you after the fact. So I'll have my email address on a slide at the very end, and feel free to reach out if you're interested in having another conversation. So before we dive into too much on the actual content side, I want everybody to really ask themselves if they fully understand the platforms that we're using. I think a lot of people treat all platforms equally, and they're not. There's different people on different platforms, and you have to decide for your business where your priority audience is. So different audiences create different strategies, which looks different across different platforms. So we're going to dive into a little bit about Facebook, a little bit about Instagram, some about content as a whole. But really the focus will be on for you as a business owner or a business leader to know who you're talking to before you're trying to figure out what you're trying to say to them, because you have to find them first. So some of the tactics we go through today will address some of that. Okay, Facebook. Obviously, everyone's probably heard of Facebook. It's been around for a while. Facebook is largely informational. What I tell people is the best way to think about Facebook is an extension of your website. So all the business details that you want to be front and center on your website, those things need to be front and center on your Facebook page. So if you're a specific business with hours, they want to know when you're open. They want to know the best way to contact you. They want to know what's currently available to them. And much like you wouldn't want people having to go dig and find things on your website, you don't want them to have to go dig and find things on your Facebook page. The Facebook audience skews a bit older, which is a great thing for some businesses. They're people who are in more positions of power, maybe more positions to actually buy things or to actually do things. So the stat is that almost 75% of adults don't go a day without checking Facebook. So if more people are finding you there than finding you on your website, you want that user experience to be just as powerful and just as genuine across the board in order to get people into your funnel. The great thing about Facebook is that it's primarily focused on text and on things that you can pull into the platform rather than creating within it, if that makes sense. So like Instagram, we'll talk about in a minute, is a very visual platform, which scares some people, rightfully so. Facebook can be great for businesses who have primarily text. So maybe you write blogs, or maybe there's copy on your website that you can slice and dice into a bunch of different places. Maybe you're trying to drive people somewhere else. You want to create a community and you want to drive them to your blog. You want to drive them to your YouTube page. You want to drive them to different places that aren't just within Facebook. That's where some businesses can do really well. You want to, like, let's say you are a venue and people are arriving at the venue for the first time. You want people to be able to be on your Facebook page and understand where to park. They want to understand what they can do to get tickets. They want to understand what the concert is going to be happening there, or different opportunities are happening there. Maybe you're an insurance company and you want people to understand why they need you, or why they need an expert in this area, or why they need different things. This is a lot more of an educational program or platform than some of them. So you want to use this as a tool to pique interest and then to drive people elsewhere, drive people back to your website, drive people back to certain blog posts or interviews where they can go a lot deeper. You don't want to give them everything at once. You want to slice and dice things to just pique interest and then drive along the process. Instagram is the most visual platform that we have as marketers and as business owners, I would argue. People don't go on here necessarily to find out information. They go on here to be entertained. Think about when you use Instagram, or when maybe your kids or people you know use Instagram. It's when you wake up in the morning and you don't want to get out of bed. It's when you need a brain break at work and you're like, I need 5 minutes to not think about what I'm doing. Or it's, at night before you're going to bed. So people aren't going on Instagram to be fully educated. They're going on there to be entertained, which is a great opportunity for brands where something like that comes naturally. And it's a much more difficult opportunity for people who are a little bit more of the structured, streamlined businesses of, let's say, an insurance company. So it's a visual place. The visual identity of the brand is important. The vibe, to use a very millennial word, is very important to be portrayed through a platform like Instagram, because the audience tends to lean younger, and younger consumers demand different things and different types of communication style than the older consumers. So let's say you're a restaurant, you're a brand new restaurant in West Hollywood, and you want people to want to be there. Your Instagram page needs to reflect all the amazing things that you've done to create the environment you have in your restaurant, because you better believe people who live in West Hollywood who are looking for new places to dine are going on Instagram and seeing what photos you're putting up, how you're communicating with your audience day to day, what's being tagged at your location, because it's something that they want to align with their personal brand, or they want to bring into their experience as a human. So that can be terrifying for people that creating doesn't come naturally to, and that's okay. We're going to go through a couple tactics in a little bit of ways you can seed without having a super visual business and still succeed on Instagram. But before we get into the actual tactics of the content, I think if you take nothing else out of today, take away the knowledge that you need to find out who your audience is. Like, let's say for our business specifically, let's talk about Mile 44. We're a global sports content studio. So inevitably, we're going to get a lot of sports fans along the way that follow us on Instagram, that engage with our stuff. And that's great, because it's kind of just a lot of momentum and excitement around what we're building. But my audience, as the VP of partnerships, I want it to be brand builders. I want it to be business owners. I want it to be people that work at teams, leagues, and whatnot. And those people you communicate a lot differently to than the person who wants to watch a football game on a Sunday. So while we could easily take a pivot and talk to the sports fan, it's more important for us to speak to the business leader, because that at the end of the day is what's going to come in and grow our business. So we've gotten very, very specific on knowing exactly who our audience is. And I would urge you to do the same. If your audience tends to skew older, then maybe Facebook is the platform for you, and maybe Instagram's on pause right now. For us, for example, what we do is so visual that Instagram is a huge priority for us, and our Facebook page, it exists, but it's fully locked and it drives people. If they end up there, it's going to drive them back to our website or back to our Instagram, because right now it's not a priority for us to build out a strategy for that. And that's okay. You don't have to have every single platform firing at once. You need to get the pages up, make them look okay, and then be able to allocate your time, energy, and resources into the things that are going to move your business forward. So everyone says it's better to have 100 of the right people than 1,000 of the wrong people. And 1,000 of the wrong people will, for a very short stint, give you that pat on the back that you might need just to keep going and to drive some excitement. But the right people are going to drive the business goals forward. And that's the entire point of doing social well, is to drive business goals. And maybe that's sales, maybe that's, referrals coming in, maybe that's just leadership from a business owner standpoint. All of these things are great, but you need to be communicating to the right people if it's going to be worth the time and energy that you're putting in as a business owner or business leader in order to make it happen. So on the content strategy side of things, this is where conversations get interesting with many people. A lot of people want to go to specific assets. So I have this great blog, or I have this great video, or I have this great photo shoot. And I say those are great, but we need to think about the content strategy. We need to think about the buckets that are going to be sustainable, that are going to bring your customers along a journey. So don't think about specific assets yet. I want you to think about themes for your business. What are those things? What are the questions you get asked all the time? I put a couple example questions here in this slide. What are the repeated questions you get from customers or potential customers? How are you communicating those things in what you're putting out day to day? I'm not talking about an individual photo. I'm talking about more of the voice of the brand. What are you offering to people? Do you have new merch that comes out that people are buying? Do you have new services? Are you doing sales? Are there new opportunities for people? Maybe that's a specific theme, is more of like the news bucket. But make sure that anything that you're creating or anything you're investing time or money to create is fitting in one of those buckets that's going to be sustainable and scalable for your business to succeed within it. So maybe it's blogs, maybe it's photos, maybe it's different visuals or videos, or it could even be podcasts. That list of what can be created is endless, but the themes that it falls in needs to be very, very clear. And this is where you can kind of gut check yourself to say, is this sustainable? I think a lot of us sit down to think about social when there's a global pandemic and you're not traveling as much and things might be a little bit slower than they normally are. This is when we kind of our eyes get bigger than our schedules allow us to. So we need to gut check ourselves and say, is this a strategy that is sustainable? So when life goes back to normal and I'm at full capacity in terms of being busy, can I do this, or can I allocate the responsibilities to somebody on my team to stick with this? Because we don't want to feel awesome about what we're building for 60 days and then go quiet for 3 months. It's better to feel awesome about what you're building for 60 days, even if it feels like a little bit less, but something that's sustainable and can grow over time. So this is when we're going to talk about creating versus curating for the different platforms. I would argue that creating scares a lot of people. It's not something, especially as business owners or people in positions of management, it's not something that feels supernatural to grab an iPhone or, God forbid, a camera and create magic that's going to be the best representation of your business. So I think the first question you ask yourself is, what kind of budget do I have to allocate towards someone like this? What kind of people can I bring within my circle that are going to help me succeed here? And if the answer to that is I have some budget and I can find some people, then start to have those conversations. Different people are going to come with different strategies, which is a blessing, because then you get to kind of decide and pick what's best for your business. Maybe that budget is allocated towards a graphic designer because you're very numbers based or words based and you want to communicate in that way. Maybe you're an events company and you're going to allocate one photographer day a month to bringing assets in for the team. Those are super important. If you don't have the budget to allocate, but creating is still very important for you, there's going to be some tactics that I share at the end of this that you can download and websites that you can go to in order to make creating a little bit more turnkey if you're not able to bring anybody else in. On the curating side, this is where I think there's so much opportunity and people just maybe don't know about it. This is a lot safer of a place because instead of what am I creating, it's what am I finding that aligns with my business and is going to allow me to scale content that I'm putting out on these platforms. So it's all about efficiency and scale and authenticity. Obviously, if you're creating your own content, it's going to feel a little bit more authentic to the brand than if you're curating things from the internet, but curating done well can be just as powerful as companies spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a month on the content side of things. So some of those curating strategies, again, I'll go through at the end and give you some specific places to go look for things that may align with your business. Most strategies are a healthy mix of both. That's what I always say to people. You don't need to go all in on creating or all in on curating. Chances are that the healthy medium is where your business is going to shine and where you, as somebody leading the charge on these types of initiatives, are going to be able to feel successful within it and see the business goals being driven as a result of what you're doing. Community is king. So many people say content is king. Sure, we'll check that box, but community is king. At the end of the day, these channels are probably the most forward-facing channels your company has in order to connect with your consumer, which is great and also can be terrifying. So at the end of the day, you're going to be putting out assets and you have to find yourself in a place of just feeling comfortable with the level of assets that you're putting out. But what every single one of you has the power to do is engage with your community. How are you communicating with your people? How accessible is it to get in touch with you? If I send you a message on Facebook, am I getting a response? Who am I getting a response from? If I'm writing a comment, is somebody engaging with the comment that I'm leaving on your thing? How are you not only bringing people into the fold, but keeping them there and keeping them the best, mascots for your business in a lot of ways, because these are the most excited consumers that you need to figure out how to find these people and then have them help you find 100 more to bring into it. So your customers should feel like they know each other. If you can create an environment, I have many friends that have created e-commerce businesses where their audience, it feels like all these people live all over the world, but they feel like they would be friends in real life because of how they're engaging within these communities. So some of that can happen in comments. Some of it can happen within Messenger. Some of it can happen within specific Facebook groups that are being set up. But all of that goes back to knowing your audience really, really well before you start, so you know exactly who you're talking to, and then finding different ways to engage with that set of people and bringing them along the fold. Okay, this is when we're going to talk tactics. So this is probably, if you're going to screenshot any of the slides, this is probably the one to screenshot and go find all of these tools later. I'll run through a little bit about what each one of them do. I will say for every single one of these, if you go to the website, you're probably going to all of a sudden start getting ads for all of their competitors. These are not by any means the only tools, but they're the ones that I've used that I feel can help people get to a better place with what they're putting out across Facebook and Instagram. So as you're thinking about your content strategy, BuzzSumo is a great research tool. Rather than try to guess what your consumer wants, chances are whatever industry you're in, there's another company out there doing social really well. Go find those companies and use a tool like BuzzSumo to have them pull different things to give you insights before you get too far along the tactical lane of thinking what might work. So maybe it's something that's going to perform well around the holidays, around Christmas. If I work in sports, I want to go in and I want to see, okay, what did the Lakers do last Christmas? How did it perform compared to what the Kings did? Is there a difference between NBA and NHL, excuse me? And just getting some insights there before you go too far along the lane of actually creating. Photo curating, this is like the hidden gem that is amazing for so many businesses. There's a website called Unsplash where photographers upload a whole bunch of their photos that are completely free to use. So if I go on Unsplash and I download a photo and I want to make it a billboard on Sunset Boulevard, I can do that. They're totally rights-free images to use, and they go far beyond stock photos because they're actual photographers. I mean, not that stock photos aren't actual photographers, but they're way less set up and a lot more genuine to businesses. So people who use Unsplash well in terms of curating content are really able to create that genuine feel to what they're putting out in the world. And for people who don't have a very visual business, who just need to go find a few different things that can resonate with whatever the message is that they're putting out, this is a great tool. For written content, Missing Letter, maybe you have a website full of blogs for years and years and years and years, but these things have never really either done well on social or even made their way to social. Missing Letter will dive into different written content that you've created as a business and create biteable social content that will drive people back to that blog. So it's going to pull out different headlines, it's going to pull out different quotes, it's going to pull out different statistics, and it's going to help you understand what are the things that are actually going to get people to engage and click through to whatever it is that you're leading them to. None of this can happen without an editorial calendar. I have to be honest, I haven't found an editorial calendar that I love and would ride for, but some of these are great. Sprout Social is a good one if you're just looking, if you're running it yourself and you need a home for where all of this can live, you want to plan things out 30 to 60 days in advance, which I suggest everyone would do. Sprout Social is great for that. If you need to get approval based on social assets, then Gain is the best one I found. It's Gain app. I think it's a little bit newer than some of the other ones that you've heard of, so maybe you haven't heard of it before, but we found that it's the best in terms of communicating editorial calendars with clients or with upper management that need to approve things. So whether you are the approver and you want someone on your team to handle it, or whether someone on your team is doing it and you need to approve it, vice versa, Gain is a great app to use and relatively inexpensive as well. If you're a branding expert and you love everything about your brand and creating it, then the next two probably aren't for you. But for those of you who just need to create at scale and make it really easy for yourselves, Graphic Design 101 is Canva. There's a million templates on Canva that you can grab. All of them are formatted for different things. So maybe it's a Facebook banner, maybe it's a profile image, maybe it's an Instagram post, maybe it's an Instagram story. You're able to go in there and change out text and change out fonts and change out colors and really customize it as much as you want or as little as you want. But if you're not a person who wants to deal with the Adobe suite and doesn't have the time to learn how to be a graphic designer and video editor and all the things in one, then some of these tools will be great for you, and Canva is one of them. Biteable is another one on the video editing side of things. This is maybe you've graduated from iMovie, you're not ready for Adobe Premiere, but you need to be cranking content out. Biteable is a great asset where it makes it really easy and automated to bring in animations and put some different clips together and grab music from a music library. And again, it's a pretty inexpensive way to kind of be able to test some of those things out for your business. For the companies that are smaller and the brands that are smaller, this next one in social listening called Mention probably won't be super necessary yet, but as your brand scales and your audience scales, mention is super important because it's looking all over the internet and all over every social channel for different mentions of your brand. So let's say someone's talking about Mile 44 on Facebook. They didn't tag us, but they're talking about us. I can go in and see what they have to say. Obviously, if it's something negative, you want to get in front of it and just be in communication with those people. If it's something positive, you want to bring them further into the fold. So just getting a really good understanding of who's talking about you, what they're saying, and being able to create actions based on that. A lot of people ask about ad content. Ad content, I always say you want to do organic social really well before you start putting money into ads. So make sure you have your organic social strategy locked and moving and in a place that you feel good about it before you start putting any resources towards ads. But Ad Espresso is a great tool to start with. If you're someone who has hundreds of thousands of dollars to put to ads a month, chances are you want to hire somebody who this is their bread and butter. They love doing this, they're amazing at this, because they're gonna have different strategies in order to scale that. If you're someone who just wants to put a couple $100s here and there to see what it does for your business and see where it brings things in, Ad Espresso is great because it A/B tests things. So whether it's fonts or titles or headlines or videos or photos, you put in your assets, it creates them for you, and then it runs them and tells you which ones are performing the best. So you're able to put your money into the things that do well and take your money out of the things that are not doing as well. And then the final one I use on socials, but I also use just across the board with anything that comes out from our company. It's called Rebrandly. It allows you, much like a Bitly or any other sort of link shortener, but it allows you to put your brand in it. So let's say I'm sending something to French Cluster and I want it to, let's say I'm sending this presentation to French Cluster, rather than send them a Google Drive link that's 8 years long, we can send them a website that says mile44.com/French Cluster. So as they're clicking on it, whether it's on social or through a website, it's just something that genuinely represents us. And it's just a little branding note that people who are sticklers for it like me like to integrate. So all of these tools are relatively inexpensive to get in on. Some of them are even free at the beginning. And then as you scale with them, but nothing in here is going to cost you more than $100 a month. And I would argue most of them, looking at this list, are either free or under $20 a month. So once you kind of get thinking about your audience and thinking about your content strategy, I would dive into some of these resources and just get lost in it for a little bit, understanding what is going to be the best for you to use as a business owner. Okay, and then this is the slide with my name and my email address. So feel free to email me anytime. I'm always happy to have conversations with people who are looking to go to the next level in this. If I can be helpful, great. If I can point you in the right direction of a person or a team who can be helpful for your specific business, then that's great too, but definitely worth having a conversation. I'm also on LinkedIn, so if that's easier, feel free to add me on LinkedIn or message me there. So email or LinkedIn are probably the two best places to get in touch with me, but hopefully those slides, got you thinking in the right direction and some next steps for your business, understanding the power here, but also the responsibility of being able to create something that's sustainable and will drive your business forward. Stefan, do we have any questions?
Thank you, Anna. Exactly. This is a good time for the audience participants to use the Q&A feature on their Zoom and ask a question. In the meantime, I think, thank you, Anna. It was amazing content. While people think about their question, I was just going to ask you, why do you think people are afraid to get started on social media? Such a,
Yeah, I think people are afraid to get started because, like all of us aren't marathon runners, just getting started is the hardest part. I think it feels like this crazy big thing, and you start to doubt yourself and thinking about your competitors or just different people who do it really well. And you say, I don't have the capacity to do that. I'm dealing with my team, I'm dealing with my customers. We're all wearing a whole bunch of different hats in our lives. And if you haven't quite started yet, it's probably because it feels too big. So I think that's where I would encourage people just to find the one platform that you want to get started with and stick with that one. Take tiny little baby steps the same way that you would start as a runner or anything else in life that feels big. And just do a few things really well. As you start to see success with it, it'll give you the momentum and the excitement to go further and want to succeed within it.
Thank you for that. I also see a question coming up about editing. One moment. So what do you recommend to use when editing video?
Yeah, if you're a video editor, I mean, our entire team, we're a creative agency. So we operate out of Adobe Premiere Pro. If you've never used the Adobe suite, opening it up will be the most scary thing you've ever seen in your life. So I think just don't be afraid to use tools like an iMovie. There's also one called Adobe Rush that's a little bit of a step up from Adobe Premiere Pro. it's a step down from Premiere Pro, excuse me, but it's a step up from iMovie. So a tool like Rush, and again, Biteable, that was in that resource list. That's another tool that's really easy, that has music libraries and photos and transitions and just different things that'll help you move through things rather quickly.
Thank you. We have also another question. I think that will be the last question because we have time constraints. But what do you recommend for people who start something completely new and with no competition? So I guess new starters, again, I guess it's more a general question. What do you recommend?
Yeah. I think a question came up about followers too, so I'll kind of tie those together. So starting something new is incredible opportunity and also a little bit scary because you don't have, I say scary, it's just interesting because you don't have the luxury of looking at what other people have done well in the space and making that your own. So I'm happy to talk more about this as it relates to something specific, but if it's a brand new product, let's say you're getting into e-com and you're selling masks and you have to ask yourself, is it more important for you to build a brand and to build a community, or are you just looking for the sale? Because a lot of stuff in e-com, if you're just looking to sell a mask and you don't plan to come out with different lines of clothing and different ways to engage the customer, you just want that customer for a quick second so that they purchase and then they leave, then it's less important what you're doing day to day, and it's more important what they're seeing when they come across your brand for the first time, probably via an ad. So people have asked me a lot before just about buying followers in that sense. And it's a conversation that goes back and forth. I think if it is just about that quick sale and you're not looking to build a brand beyond it, then it really doesn't matter how many followers you have. If the person wants that item and they don't need to come into your funnel for anything else, they're going to purchase that item based on what they've seen in that ad. If you're starting a new brand that you hope lasts for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years and beyond, it's an optics game to start, and anything with a couple hundred followers is going to seem more legit than something with 2 followers and one of them's your mom and the other one's you. So if you have enough of a network of people that you can send messages to and ask them to follow the account, the minute you have 200 to 300 followers, you're legit enough to scale from that point. But I understand that starting something new with 10 followers, it can be quite difficult to just have that check the box of we're legit, we're real, and we're here to stay. So if you can create that via the network of people you have that supports you, awesome. If not, you can go buy 200 followers for $4, check that box. In 6 months, they won't be there anymore, but it'll just help give you a little bit of momentum and they won't engage. Fake followers will not engage at all, but it'll just be that gut check as people discover you for the first time that you're a real and operating business.
Great, well, thank you. And this concludes, I think, we're nearing the end of the obviously presentation. So I'm going to thank everybody, obviously all the participants for joining us today. You can reach out to Hanna directly or to the French Cluster team if you have any further question. This webinar is going to be available on YouTube channel, the French Cluster YouTube channel, and the website as well. So again, thank you, Hanna, for the insights and the valuable information that you provided to the audience today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being here, and hope to talk to you, offline off the webinar.
Absolutely. Everybody stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you on the next episode soon.
Absolutely.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.